welcome back to Meet the Authors. Thanks for staying with us. Our guest today is Lenny Emmanuel. Hello, Lenny. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Lenny Emmanuel is a very famous poet. He's published over 200 poems and articles and is established in both Britain and America. In fact, let me just ask you, Lenny, to start off tell us about some of your awards and recognition.
Oh, my. Well, I've been international. I've been in the prestigious British journal Agenda of American Poets. I've been in a number of anthologies. But I have to say it right up front, I didn't write for money or for fame. I live to write, and I write to live. And pretty much began when I was just a small boy. My mother and father were musicians, and they used to put me over to the side, you know, of the stage and give me crayons and pens and all, and I just was writing. I do play the alto sax. I play at it, but I used to. There were tenor saxophonists and myself. We used to back up the poets and everything.
So your parents were musicians, and they taught you to play the sax, huh?
No, they gave me a saxophone, but I became a football player. Can you imagine that?
Maybe there was a hint there.
I don't know.
So you were a football player too. You played. Tell us, you played in high school and with the Marines, right?
I played high school. I was all region, all state, and I went in the Marines, and I got injured, and I went to Miami, the University of Miami in Florida, and I went there to play football and box and track, and I won my division in boxing, but then I failed the physical. The physician came out and said, Mr. Emmanuel, I can't recommend that you play football here. If you get hit on a punt, return, you could be paralyzed or dead, because I had a neck injury. So
good reason not to play, I would say.
I went to the University of Miami as an athlete, and I left there as a student, and I got degrees in chemistry and English, and went on to 7 universities.
7 universities?
7.
Wow. And do you have degrees from all those universities?
No. But I primarily I was a chemist and microbiologist in pathology.
Now, pathology, that was your profession finally, wasn't it? You had because you would tell me about working with other doctors, working in the hospitals.
Well, I was basically I was a diagnostic bacteriologist. Was what I really liked to do, but I kept getting promoted, and the first thing I knew, I was in the administrative aspect of it, you know, dealing with people. Instead of a doer, I became a person who saw that things got done, and that was new for me.
So tell us about your poetry. You have so many books out. So hold up some of your books so we can see what you've got done.
This is the one that's it's received more notice than the other ones. It's
The Ice Cream Lady.
The Ice Cream Lady. She pulled me out of a fountain. I fell in the fountain there when I was, I must have been about 7 years old, and I hit my head on a rock, and
that explains a lot.
Yeah, I was out. And the Ice Cream Lady, I was always her favorite. She always gave me an extra dip of chocolate, you know, ice cream. But anyway, she pulled me out, and so I named the book after her, and so forth.
And this is a collection of your poetry, or?
This one is. There are 3 here with my poems in them, and essays in here too. But I do this one because one of the things that I did come around to realizing, and I learned it in the Louvre in Paris. I heard that Hemingway had learned to write at the Louvre, and so I went there and I roamed around. I said, what in the world could he have learned in an art museum? And I finally ended up in front of the Mona Lisa, and I said, God, I wish Leonardo da Vinci was here. I'd ask him something. And I kept looking up there, and then I said, oh, he's out to lunch. you know, because he's not there. You see the paint strokes, you see Mona Lisa's eyes, the smile, but you don't see Leonardo da Vinci.
Oh.
And that was when I really, in my view, that's when I really did learn to write, because I had to get Lenny out of the way. Art was more important than I am. But this is an interesting issue, because another instance of my getting Lenny out of the way, because it's an edition of female poets, and as you know, they don't get published very much. So I took it upon myself. I have Germans in here, French. I even have a Czech in here.
Well, we want to hear some of your poetry, so let's start with reading one of yours,
well,
and then we can go on and some.
This one is called "Outside the Moon."
Okay.
And I was in Iowa. I went to the University of Iowa when it was the only writer's workshop. And I was awakened about 2 or 3 in the morning. There was an affair over my head. And so I did the poem, and I didn't finish it until about 50 years later. But anyway, it's called "Outside the Moon." Upstairs, springs are squeaking. I have been listening for some time here below, while the overhead affair reflects another kind of windows, moon and snow. Their springs go so rapidly, the bed must be made of iron, pounding, pounding, pounding my overhead floor, her gentle moanings embracing my silence. Finally, their springs stop, and immediately afterwards, heavy feet and light feet move across the upstairs floor toward the moonlit windows, these windows here below. My unavoidable listening, 2 moons quietly confused. Faucets are running now. Something drops like soap. She gently blows her nose. There's the sound of boots. A door is opening. The light feet are not the ones leaving. They are still near, waiting as they will be forever, caught, barely changing their bewildered positions. Perhaps she glances toward the moon. Perhaps she knows, standing there, about infinite aloneness, about loss and final goodbyes. Perhaps she will someday soon descend those winding stairs and ask some gentle question about this awful weather. When will spring be coming, or will the lilacs bloom this year? I know the way of her hair, the color it turns and rolls over her shoulders, the warm marking across the glass, her eyes watching a desolate moon.
Very nice. Oh, that was lovely. Very, very lovely. So we have about 1 minute left. Tell people where they can get your books. I think we have some on the video screen that gives an address.
The distribution office is in New Orleans, and that's should be on the screen.
Yeah. So Ramparts LLC, they can actually write to that
they can write
address
there
and get information about the book. But also you have an email, don't you?
There's an email, and they do have some phone numbers, but the Tybee, there are 3 phone numbers. There's Tybee 01, there's Tybee 02, and there's Tybee over 3.
Those are all emails.
That's right.
So they can reach you and get information about your books. All right, that's great. Hopefully I can put one on the website too, and we'll look forward to getting more information about your books. So that's Lenny Emmanuel. Thanks for coming, Lenny.
Thank you.
He's a good friend of mine and a marvelous
Pleasure.
poet.